My dear chosen one, I invite you to breathe deeply and open your heart, because what I am about to reveal is not just information. It is a spiritual truth that has followed you since before you took your first breath. There is a reason why your journey has felt heavier than most, why certain relationships in your life have felt like chains rather than blessings. What God is showing us today is that some of what you've been fighting wasn't even meant for you. It began long before you arrived, hidden in the shadows of ancestral choices and spiritual manipulations. This is not just about you. It is about a divine plan that was hijacked. And now, finally, heaven is intervening. Today, we will uncover what was stolen and how the divine crackdown is restoring what was rightfully yours. You see, chosen one, not every marriage you witnessed growing up, not every family that looked intact was born from love or divine will. Some were the result of spellwork, of root work, of dark spiritual manipulations that bound one soul to another in a union never approved by heaven. These unions created families where the light was meant to flourish, but instead, darkness sought to reign. And many of you, yes, you listening right now, were born into these inverted structures, carrying battles that were never yours to fight. But do not despair, because what has been hidden is being brought to the light. The divine is exposing these ancient pacts, and what was bound in shadows is being loosed in the name of truth. Before we continue this powerful unveiling, I ask you to take a moment to engage with this spiritual work. If your soul feels this message stirring something deep within, write in the comments, "The chains are breaking." Your words are declarations, and declarations open the way for deliverance. Leave your like if you want to see more truths like this brought forward, and subscribe if you haven't yet, so that together we can walk in the light that frees. Share this with someone who needs to know why their battles are so fierce. Because, dear one, what we will reveal next may explain everything. My dear one, today we begin to unveil what has long been hidden beneath layers of spiritual deception. What you need to understand is that there are unions in this world that were never blessed by God. Unions that were forged in secrecy, through dark arts, through root work, through binding spells that sought to trap one soul into a covenant they never chose. These unions created families, homes, and legacies that, on the surface, looked normal, perhaps even admirable, but underneath, they were prisons. These were not families built on love or truth. They were structures designed to steal light, to hijack divine purposes, and to reroute blessings that were meant for something higher. And many of you, chosen ones, were born right into these prisons, destined to carry a cross that was never yours, marked by a battle that began generations before you took your first breath. This is why your journey has felt so heavy. This is why you have felt out of place even among your own blood, as if your very presence was an offense, as if simply being you caused unseen forces to rise against you. The truth is, your soul was never meant to be in that house, in that family, in that karmic structure. Your soul was meant to be born of divine union, of a partnership that would have nurtured your light and elevated your spirit. But what happened? The one who was supposed to be your divine parent, your protector in this world, was stolen, bound by spells, tricked into a covenant that rerouted not only their life, but yours as well. You are not the product of chance. You are the product of divine rerouting, because heaven knew you had to come forth, even if it meant entering through a door that was never meant to be opened for you. The children born into these karmic unions were never meant to carry the burdens they now bear. You, chosen one, are one of those children. Your soul was meant to descend through a sacred lineage, through a covenant made in the light, but the darkness interfered. The darkness, through manipulation and deceit, forced its way into what was destined for God's glory, hijacking partners, creating marriages that were never written in heaven's book. And when you came into this world, that darkness recognized your light. It recognized your purpose, your mission, and it knew that if you ever awakened to who you truly are, the entire structure of lies would collapse. This is why, from infancy, from the womb, you have been targeted not just by people, but by spiritual forces working through them, trying to bind you before you could ever walk in your calling. What is critical to understand is that the binding of the partner in these inverted marriages was only the beginning. Once the darkness secured that partner through spellwork and root work, its next mission was to bind the offspring. Because the enemy knows the power of generational blessings, the enemy knows that if it can control the vessel through which the blessings were meant to flow, it can attempt to reroute or steal those blessings entirely. So, the same manipulations, the same spiritual contracts that were used to ensnare the parent were extended and deepened to ensnare the child. And that is why, dear one, your life has felt like an uphill battle, because you were born into a war zone, disguised as a home. And today, God is peeling back the veil so you can see it for what it is. Many of you have asked yourselves, why do I feel this invisible resistance? Why does it seem like the more I try to rise, the more I am pulled back down? And now the truth stands before you. The karmic parent, the one who forged that dark covenant, saw you not as a blessing, not as an innocent soul, but as a threat to the empire they tried to build on lies. From the moment you drew breath, you became a reminder of the divine plan they tried to hijack. And so, their envy, their hatred, their spiritual warfare was directed at you, not because of who you are in the flesh, but because of who you are in the spirit. Because your light, even as a child, was exposing the counterfeit nature of the life they built. And that is why you were under attack before you could even understand what was happening. The enemy's strategy was not just to steal a partner, but to steal destinies. That is why these karmic unions worked overtime to cast the divine partner in shadows, labeling them as lazy, unstable, irresponsible, or mad. Anything to justify the manipulation and bondage. But beneath those false labels was a soul crying out for freedom. A soul God intended for greatness and divine union. And you, as their child, carried the same divine spark that the darkness feared. That spark made you a target, not only for slander and mistreatment in the physical world, but for relentless spiritual attacks designed to dim your light, confuse your purpose, and delay your destiny. But no matter how intense the attack, the divine hand has always been upon you, waiting for the appointed time to reveal the truth and break the chains. And now, that time has come. God is lifting the veil, dismantling the structures that were built on deception, and exposing the works of darkness that tried to claim ownership over your life. The inverted marriages, the false contracts, the rerouted blessings, all of it is being brought into the light so that you, chosen one, can finally walk in the freedom and authority that was always yours by divine right. The enemy may have written contracts in the shadows, but God is the ultimate author of your story. And His word stands above every lie, every curse, and every scheme that was ever set against you. What you feel stirring now is the power of that truth awakening in your spirit, and there is no spell strong enough to silence it. What has been hidden for generations is now being revealed with clarity, because the time of divine reckoning has come. The unions that were forged by manipulation, by the hands of those who knew they were not aligned with God's will, are collapsing under the weight of their own deception. Chosen one, I need you to see this clearly. Those marriages, those families that looked intact on the outside, were never whole. They were fragile, built on the sand of lies, and God is now sending a storm to wash away everything that was not rooted in truth. This is not simply about human failure or broken promises. This is about spiritual contracts, written in darkness, that tried to override the will of heaven. And the divine crackdown is not just exposing these contracts, it is tearing them to pieces, so that you and others like you can rise into your rightful place. You may be wondering why, despite all your efforts, you have faced repeated betrayals, false friendships, and relationships that left you feeling more empty than fulfilled. It is because these false connections were part of the karmic structure designed to keep you bound. The same forces that hijacked your parents' destiny have tried over and over to hijack yours by placing counterfeit relationships, false twin flames, and soul ties that were never written in heaven's book. These were not accidents, dear one. These were assignments from darkness, sent to confuse your path, siphon your light, and reroute the blessings meant for you and your divine partner. But the good news is this: those timelines, those false connections are crumbling. Heaven is severing them at the root so you can finally see clearly and walk forward in divine purpose. It is essential that you recognize how intentional these attacks have been. The enemy never wanted just your parent. The enemy wanted the lineage, the legacy, the generational blessings that were meant to flow through that divine union. And when the enemy could not stop your birth, because heaven had decreed that you must come forth, it tried instead to poison the soil into which you were planted. That is why your childhood may have been filled with chaos, rejection, or spiritual oppression. That is why you felt unseen, unheard, and misunderstood, even by those who were supposed to love and protect you. But let me assure you, what was planted in deception cannot bear fruit in God's kingdom. The weeds are being pulled up, the lies are being exposed, and your true purpose is being restored before your very eyes. Dear chosen one, understand this. The parent who was bound by these dark covenants was meant to protect and shield you, but often they could not. Some even became instruments, knowingly or unknowingly, in the enemy's plan against you. Not because they were evil at heart, but because they were bound so tightly by spiritual contracts that their will was weakened, their vision clouded, their strength drained. And this is part of the heartbreaking reality God is now healing. The divine is not just breaking chains off you. He is reaching back through generations, undoing the works of darkness that tried to claim your bloodline. That is why you feel the shaking in your spirit. That is why old systems are falling apart in your life. It is not destruction, it is deliverance. As God tears down these inverted structures, He is also exposing the spiritual forces that upheld them. These were not ordinary unions. These were unions sustained by entities, by spirits that fed off the energy of the bound souls, by agreements made in secret that allowed the enemy legal access to what was never his. And now, those entities tremble because the divine light is shining on what they thought would remain hidden forever. You are witnessing the unraveling of generations of deceit, the collapse of fortresses built on manipulation and fear. And in this collapse, dear one, you are being invited to step fully into your authority, to reclaim what was stolen, to walk boldly where you once felt bound, and to declare with your very life that God's truth is greater than any lie ever spoken over you. There is something powerful happening in this hour that I need you to grasp. God is not just freeing you, He is rewriting the story from the very beginning. The divine crackdown reaches all the way back to the first word spoken in darkness, the first spell cast, the first lie that bound a soul into a covenant that was never meant to be. God is pulling it all up by the root, exposing every layer and burning away the residue of deception. That is why the shaking feels so intense. That is why you may feel the weight of generations pressing on your soul, because what is being uprooted goes deeper than you could ever imagine. But take heart, chosen one. The deeper the root, the greater the victory when it is torn out by the hand of God. And in this victory, you will see the hand of justice move like never before. Those who thought they could manipulate destiny those who bound others for their own gain, those who fed off the blessings meant for you. They are now facing the consequences of what they set in motion. The maternal figure who feasted on your divine parent's energy, who tried to claim ownership over you through deception, is seeing the walls of her empire fall. And if not her, then the one she bound, the divine partner who was meant to stand by you, may face the ultimate consequence for refusing to rise when the time came. This is not spoken as a curse, but as a fulfillment of divine law. What is sown in darkness will reap destruction, but what is sown in light will reap eternal life. What you are witnessing now is the collapse of structures that were never built to last. These karmic marriages, these stolen unions, these contracts forged in darkness, they always carried within them the seeds of their own destruction. Because anything built apart from God, anything rooted in manipulation and deceit, will ultimately fall when the light of truth shines upon it. That is what is happening in your life, in your bloodline, and in this very hour. The storm that has come is not to harm you, but to wash away what was never meant to cover you. You are standing in the midst of a divine cleansing, a holy judgment that is not against you, but for you, to restore what was stolen, to heal what was broken, and to set you on the path that was always yours by right. As these false structures fall, you may feel a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief, because the illusions you once leaned on, even the people you thought would stand by you, are being removed. Relief, because at last the truth is being revealed, and the chains you thought would bind you forever are being shattered. I want you to know that it is okay to feel both at once. It is okay to mourn the loss of what you thought was real, even as you rejoice in the freedom that truth brings. God is not asking you to pretend that the journey has not been painful. He is asking you to trust that every tear you have shed, every battle you have fought, has brought you to this moment of divine justice. You are not losing what was meant for you. You are gaining what was hidden from you all along. Chosen one, understand that the enemy's plan was never just to bind your parent or to hijack a marriage. The plan was always to block the generational blessings, to stop the flow of divine inheritance that was meant to come through you. That is why the attacks have been so relentless, so personal, so precise. The darkness feared what would happen if you ever awakened to your true identity. It feared what would happen if you ever stepped fully into your calling. And so it tried to surround you with lies, with counterfeit relationships, with spiritual contracts designed to confuse your path and drain your strength. But what the enemy did not count on was that God's hand on your life would never be removed. Even in the midst of the attack, even when you felt most alone, heaven was watching, waiting, preparing the moment for your release. The parent who was bound by these dark covenants, the one who was supposed to protect you, may have failed in many ways. But I need you to understand something crucial. Their failure does not define your future. Their weakness does not limit your strength. Their bondage does not chain your destiny. What the enemy tried to do through their brokenness, God is now reversing through your awakening. You are not here to repeat their mistakes. You are here to break the cycle, to rise above the patterns of the past, and to walk in the freedom they never knew how to claim. That is the mantle you carry. That is the reason the battle has been so fierce. And that is why God is standing with you now, declaring that the chains are broken, the lies are exposed, and the path is made clear for you to walk in truth. This exposure is not just about setting you free, it is about bringing down entire systems of deceit that have operated for generations. These inverted marriages were not isolated incidents. They were part of a broader strategy of the enemy to corrupt, to reroute, to steal what heaven intended for good. And now, with every veil that is lifted, with every false contract that is burned, that system crumbles a little more. The spirits that upheld those contracts are losing their grip. The entities that fed off those unions are being starved of the energy they once consumed. You, chosen one, are not just a witness to this collapse. You are a catalyst for it. Your awakening, your prayers, your declarations of truth are shaking the foundations of darkness. You are part of the divine cleanup crew, sent to restore order where chaos once reigned. You may feel the weight of this task. You may feel the fatigue of fighting battles that seem too big for one soul to bear. But I am here to remind you that you do not fight alone. The armies of heaven march with you. The Spirit of God strengthens you. The victory is not something you have to manufacture. It is something you have to walk into, because it has already been won. Every false timeline, every counterfeit connection, every stolen blessing is being returned, not because you demanded it, but because it was always yours by divine right. The enemy's paperwork is void. The contracts written in darkness hold no power over a soul covered by the blood of the Lamb. And that is the truth that is setting you free in this very hour. There is a divine shaking taking place, and though it feels uncomfortable, it is not meant for your destruction. It is designed for your liberation. God is shaking loose every attachment that tried to cling to you unlawfully, tearing down what was built on deception so that He can build upon the foundation of His truth. In this process, you may feel the ground shift beneath your feet, but what is falling is only what was never meant to stand. The storm will pass, and what remains will be what was destined for you all along. As the masks fall from those who pretended to stand with you, as the false loyalties are severed, remember this: it is the mercy of God at work, lifting the weight of deception so that you can walk in the freedom that has always been your inheritance. And in that freedom, you will discover strength, peace, and clarity greater than anything you've ever known. The battle over your life has felt personal and relentless because your calling is not ordinary. You carry the blueprint of a generational shift, the authority to break cycles and restore what was lost. That is why the enemy studied you, tailored attacks to your deepest wounds, and tried to silence the divine fire within you. But what the enemy could never extinguish is that very fire. Your inheritance, your weapon, your guiding light out of every maze of lies. The collapse of counterfeit systems and karmic structures is no accident. It is the fruit of your prayers, your endurance, your silent acts of faith. Heaven heard you, and now divine justice is moving. The illusions are falling. The shame and guilt are losing their grip. And what remains is the true you, unshaken and chosen by God for this very hour of restoration. What is happening now is not just the end of a painful cycle. It is the dawn of a new era, marked by clarity, freedom, and fulfilled purpose. The chains of old curses have broken. The generational patterns of bondage have shattered. The inverted structures that blocked your rise are collapsing under the weight of divine truth. And as you step forward into this freedom, your light will guide others, your testimony will break chains, and your victory will inspire those who thought hope was lost. The counterfeit no longer tempts you because your soul has tasted what is real, and nothing less will do. This is God's justice at work, and no enemy can stop what He has ordained for your life. The harvest of restoration is here, and what remains now is only what was written for you from the very beginning: unshakable, unstoppable, and blessed by God's own hand. Chosen one, the divine crackdown you are witnessing is not simply about tearing down what was false. It is about building what is true, holy, and lasting. God is not only breaking the chains that kept you small, but He is clearing the ground for divine connections, opportunities, and alignments that will honor who you truly are. These new relationships and doors opening before you are not like what came before. They are blessed by heaven, sent to nurture your purpose, protect your peace, and remind you daily of the greatness within you. As you step into this season, The weight of the past, the guilt, the false loyalty, the confusion, is lifting like a garment that never belonged to you. What once drained you will now be replaced by what fills you, strengthens you, and points you back to God's perfect plan. And in this shift, you will begin to see just how powerful divine restoration truly is. The structures that were built on lies are crumbling. And yes, you may hear old voices trying to call you back. You may feel the pull of familiar patterns, of former fears, of loyalties that once felt safe but were actually chains. But this is not the time to look back. This is the time to fix your gaze on what God is doing right now, to walk boldly through the Red Sea that is parting before you. The storm is loud, but your peace will be louder. The enemy's last attempts to regain ground will fail, because truth has already won. The promises, blessings, and purposes attached to your name are being restored, not just for your sake, but for the sake of generations. Your freedom will open doors for others. Your testimony will break chains for those still trapped, and your journey will become a map for those searching for the way out of their own darkness. What was stolen is being redeemed. What was silenced is being called forth, and what was hidden is being brought into the light. The curses, lies, and manipulations that tried to define you are losing their grip, because God's truth is speaking louder now, and that truth declares victory. This is not just a moment for you. This is a generational shift. The chains falling from your hands are falling from your children's hands and from the hands of those yet to come. God's justice is not partial. It is complete, powerful, unstoppable. And as you stand in this new light, you will feel the peace, the strength, and the clarity that come only from heaven's hand. The story is changing. The tables are turning. And you, chosen one, are living proof that no darkness can stand where the light of God reigns. Chosen one, I leave you with this truth. You are not the victim of this story. You are the victor. You are not the one who was conquered. You are the one who, by God's grace, has conquered. And now, as you stand at the threshold of this new season, I encourage you, declare it. Write in the comments, "The victory is mine." Let heaven and earth witness your agreement with what God is doing. Like this video if you feel the chains breaking. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path of truth and light with us. And share this message with someone who needs to be reminded that no darkness can stop God's plan. I also want to take a moment to deeply thank everyone who has supported this work through Buy Me a Coffee. Your generosity helps us continue to create these messages, to pour truth and light into the world, and to keep reaching those who are searching for hope. If you feel led to support this mission, the link is in the first pinned comment. Your support means more than words can say, and it helps us keep bringing these messages to life with excellence and love. Before you go, I encourage you to watch the video that is appearing on your screen right now. Let it continue to feed your spirit, to strengthen your faith, and to remind you of the victory that is yours in Christ. Or take a moment to explore the playlist. There is so much truth waiting for you there. You are not alone in this journey. We are walking it together, with heaven as our guide and light as our banner. Until next time, and God bless you.